Bible study for everybody met the 14th of January, and we began what will turn out to be a series on the purpose of Bible study. Why go to Bible study? And I asked that question, and news printed a bunch of responses, and it became obvious to me that I really should have asked a question like this: what are the purposes of Bible study? Well, as I was thinking about this, I went through a whole series of how to approach it, and I finally decided that we needed to cover some of the basics of the Christian faith, words and what they mean, not because they're church words, but because they appear in the Bible. And we should have a level playing field or a common understanding of what those words mean. And then that led me to start thinking about God's chosen vehicle in the world, which is His church, and some work on what is the church. Then that led me to think about the jobs that we as Christians have, or how we fit into this picture, or where we fit into it. So that led me to that, which will probably lead us to gifts and some discussion of those kinds of things, and finally bring us back around to the purpose of Bible study. My purpose as teaching it, and your purpose as a student. So let's go to some of the basics and get on common ground here. Salvation was the first word we talked about, which means deliverance from sin and its consequences, and it is brought about by faith in Jesus Christ. Then we talked about redemption, which is the act of saving or being saved from sin, error, or evil, the action of regaining or gaining possession of something in exchange for payment or clearing of a debt. Some of you may remember years ago they used to have trading stamps, and you could redeem them for product. But nowadays you clip a coupon and you can redeem it for a product, or you gather airline miles and you can redeem them for flights. So it's something that's exchanged as a payment or gaining possession of something. Then we talked about justification, which is the act of declaring or making righteous in the sight of God. You can read all of that verbiage there, but essentially it's God declares the sinner absolved from sin, released from sin's penalty, and restored as righteous. That led us to have a little discussion about the word righteous, which in my layman's terminology means right standing with God. In right standing with God. And then we talked also about the word sanctification, which is the process or result of being made holy. In other words, it's the carrying on of the work of becoming more Christ-like or more holy, the work that was begun in redemption. See, those other three words, redemption, salvation, justification, are one-time acts. Sanctification is an ongoing process. We then talked about some scripture that contains those words, and I will leave it to you to look at those scriptures if you're interested, but they contain those words and talk about how they're used in the Bible. Question 3 there, why did God have to save us or redeem us or justify us? Because the bar is set at perfection, and it's perfection. Nothing less. God is perfect. We are not. How will we, imperfect creatures, sinners that we are, that's what the Bible calls it, come into the presence of a perfect God? And we read those scriptures, which I'll also leave to you. And the only comment I'll make is that we got hung up on, for a few minutes, on Romans 8:30 because it talks about predestination or election. That led to quite a lengthy discussion of predestination. And any discussion of predestination is predestined to be confusing. We used several examples in talking about it. The one is that God stands outside of time, so he does see the beginning from the end. He sees it all. He knows it all. That does not mean that he is making the choices for us. We're making free choices here, but God knows what we're going to do, if you want to think of it that way. The way I think of it is when my son was a little guy, he started making a beeline for the hot stove one time, and I knew he was going to touch it. And he touched it. Now, just because I knew he was going to touch that stove, it does not mean that I controlled his actions. It was his choice to touch that stove, but I knew he was going to do it. So there's sort of an example of, it's very difficult for us to get our minds around this, and it is beyond our understanding. Another way to think about it, if you want, is that if I had $3 $20 bills, I could give them to whoever I wanted. And no one has earned those $20 bills. No one deserves those $20 bills. I do not owe those $20 bills to anyone. I just am going to give them to someone. And there's another way to kind of try to think about it. So at any rate, it was quite a discussion, and we will continue. Oh, lastly, we said, if you'll recall in Deuteronomy 29:29, it says, "The secret things belong to the Lord our God, but those that have been revealed belong to us and our children for all generations." So the secret things, this could very well be in the category of the secret things, this whole predestination idea, or trying to understand how this works. Really, the question is, where's our faith? So no matter what the answer to that question is, if we ever understand it, what is our faith like? You recall Job, who was tried in every way and ended up groveling in the ashes with nothing, said, "Yet though he slay me, yet I will believe in my God and have faith in my God." So it really comes down to a question of faith. The secret things belong to him. Next week, we are going to get back to the purpose of Bible study, part 2, and I hope maybe we'll get to the point of talking about God's chosen vehicle in this world. If not, we'll be working our way in that direction towards the purpose of Bible study, part 2.